Right, this is exciting. So I came to PeerTalk 2019 off the back of my husband having a massive mental health crisis mid-2018, in part because of the frustration of lack of access to support, and possibly in part because I wanted to try and fix him and somehow felt I could fix others and that would help him. PeerTalk was introduced to me by one of my lovely volunteers, Linda, who's here somewhere. I think probably in part to provide support for him, but actually it was me that took that up. So what PeerTalk offers in our groups are consistency. So we consistently provide a safe, non-judgmental and peer-led group. So these groups happen same time, same day, same venue, same format, week in, week out across the country. So you can go to Lancaster, you can come to Skipton, and the group will look the same. So the format includes recognition of what's happening, our privacy statement, a reminder about the fact that the group is non-judgmental, and our safeguarding protocol. So that happens in every group, every week without fail. Also that carries through that is the professional, consistent attitude and environment, which from the peers, or what I witnessed the peers seeing, is there's no surprises, absolutely imperative. There's a sense of familiarity, safety and calm within the groups. All this is delivered through volunteers, and those volunteers range in type from student to retiree, full-time workers, men, women, parents, varied ethnic groups and backgrounds, and they all come to PeerTalk with completely individual skills and completely different reasons for being there. But although they're all different, the consistency that PeerTalk gives through their initial training, which I did mine in Leeds, 7 hours-ish, a group full of people I'd never met, all with a similar aim to learn what PeerTalk was about and how we facilitate groups. In a nutshell, we did a lot around active listening, which is actually about listening and not necessarily listening and facilitating rather than listening and doing, which is kind of an instinctive thing. And then we do training quarterly as individual groups, and that also consists of some input around the groups for improvements, what we could do better, what's worked, and to see that success. We don't volunteer every week, so we'll volunteer a couple of weeks. There's always 2 facilitators, 1 lead and 1 as support, and those get jiggled around as the quarter goes on. So this broad spectrum of people and combination works in terms of ensuring that peers see a full range of life experience and they can relate to those people that are sat there. So what I see in groups, and this is not professional diagnosis, some of these situations are diagnosed, others are not diagnosed by me. I'm not professional, but I see people who have PTSD, anxiety, depression, trauma past and present, those struggling with abuse, substance abuse, grief, loneliness, autism, and generally life happening. Some it affects their life, some it's completely debilitating. But what strikes me within those groups is that although there are a varied range of life experiences, severity doesn't matter. Each is validated, whether it's extreme PTSD or whether it's loneliness, each has something to bring the other, and peers validate that at exactly the same level. There's not one that takes priority, that's not one that's more distressed than the other. They all treat each other with respect and validate that. So the role of the facilitator within those groups is to open the group, encourage sharing, validate and encourage responses. And those responses can be anything from, as Danny mentioned there, music, mindfulness, actually highlighting that somebody's in a toxic situation, in a toxic environment. And sometimes the advice I've seen has been as brutal as, you need to stop doing that. But that comes from the peers, not from the facilitators. Often we as facilitators can see what we think is exactly the solution, but it's not up to us to give that solution. That comes from other peers, and that is accepted because those other peers know that that person has lived that or has some experience of. Benefits of randomly open water swimming, more generally exercise, companionship, tea and cake was one solution that I saw a couple of peers come up with. They literally went for tea and cake. Lady was very, very lonely. The lady sat next to her went, well, come on, I live near you, let's go for tea and cake. So solutions can be so simple, or perceived solutions. Sometimes advice and solutions come from conversation. The conversation twists and you often think it's going nowhere, and then somebody goes, oh, that will work for me. So some ideas and advice just come by accident and are very, very organic, and it's really nice when they come back next week and people can go, yay, that worked. Things that I see that are unspoken, so there are unspoken benefits to these groups that people don't necessarily see or maybe don't recognise, but provide relief. I've witnessed in groups very, very recently, one of the peers I actually witnessed was completely consumed by rage, absolutely within himself. That dissipated through him just speaking and being heard and hearing himself speak. No answers, absolutely no answers, just simply somebody saying, do you know what, I can see you're really, really angry, but that's fine. And the relief and the dissipation of that anger was just unbelievable. And I've regularly witnessed peers walk into the room, physically their body language is completely closed, almost as if they're in pain with the distress that they are suffering within themselves, and given the opportunity to talk, be heard, and somebody go, you know, that's really rubbish, isn't it? And their whole demeanour just relaxes, and in that moment there's some relief, and that comes from the validation of being in that group and other people recognising what they've said and what they've heard. When I applied to be a facilitator, part of the application process was to ask what I thought I would gain from this. Was I looking to progress in a career? What was I gaining? And my honest answer was that I wasn't looking to gain anything particularly. It was about, in some way, me supporting my husband through what he had gone through. Actually, now when I look back, I've gained so much. As somebody who's a natural born fixer and doer, this skill of actively listening to people and not judging, absolute revelation benefits that come from that. The power of peers being able to speak and be given the space to speak, hear and be heard, and know that they're not alone, absolutely mind-blowing, and such a simple concept. I think I'm probably winding up a touch early. I don't know if I've spoken a bit fast. So my summary of the groups is that we are there, or our aim is not to counsel or fix people, it's to provide support, listening to people and actually hearing them and providing some level of validation. Absolute magic.